I am for everybody, I am for nobody.
No, you not talk about me.
No, in another way.
How are you sure, sir?
Keep quiet. I am in
The only area where Buhari defeats for that statement. Now only appointment. When you are talking about project, the project spell at God. If you say you need to spell at God, what does it mean? But if you say appointment, and in the type of appointment, you appoint people you trust.
Be like what the man na
I'm ready to whether our leaders are the where they get the position then.
why una no come win APC? Why una no win
Asheko.
Yes, it's a pleasure to be here with you again this morning. My name is Kemi Asheko, and of course, this is the global morning. It's been a wet morning here in the capital city, Abuja. I don't know. They say that some people say that Abuja weather is bipolar because it could be sunny 1 minute,
and the next,
it's just rainy. But
right.
I kind of like it. I like
it's
it.
Cool.
I like it.
Even though it gave me the temptation not to come to work today, but then again, the training just won't let me be.
Well, the training should really not let you be. And, you know, it's interesting the way we were trained back in the days. You know, you could almost feel your superiors flogging you with something from the back
Even
of
when
your
you were
head.
all alone in your room.
Quite honestly, quite honestly. But it's a beautiful Wednesday morning.
Yeah, sure it is.
Yes, although wet, and I'm sure the papers have a lot for us in them this morning.
Definitely, everyone. So we're going to take a look at the papers for you as usual. Of course, we have a big conversation right up ahead on the show. But first, let's give you a bit of insight as to the direction of news this morning across newspapers. We'll begin with New Telegraph. The New Telegraph is our first port of call today. A big story there, headline that reads how Tinubu Kwankwanso's Paris meeting altered permutations. All right, you find that a headline on the New Telegraph. It says 10th NAS leadership, how Tinubu Kwankwanso's Paris meeting altered permutations. Then you're wondering what were those permutations and in what ways specifically did this meeting actually alter all of those?
Well, because I think that one of the things you cannot take away from the president-elect is his ability to strategize.
Right.
And Kano State, for example, has quite a number of House of Representatives members, right, as against other states, and then also the senators from there. And it's not news that the NNPP actually won most of the elections, if not most,
in
not
Kano
all,
State.
in Kano State. So
Right.
definitely there is that need to bring, you know, the Kwankwanso closer, right? That's the presidential candidate of the NNPP. Bring him closer so that at the end of the day, you can also have some form of agreement that does not torpedo what the APC and the president-elect is trying to do. So I guess it's the strategy thing. We keep our fingers crossed because apparently it has been kept, you know, under wraps what that meeting was about. But we do know that there is some form of unifying that is going on, and we hold on to see how that plays out.
We also hear, I mean, we're hearing that that is also giving some concerns to the incumbent governor of Kano State and his camp, because they see it as a bit of, if you like, aberration, because, again, there's a bit of insecurity around the fact that Kano State going forward for the foreseeable future has become quote and unquote NNPP state.
Well, you see, the thing about it is, as with politics, there is you never have permanent enemies, nor you have permanent friends.
That's
right? There's always that we'll stretch our hands, you know, a bit across our comfort zone and try to see who we can bring in. Don't forget that the current Kano State governor, the outgoing Kano State governor, Governor Umar Ganduje, you know, used to be the deputy governor to Kwankwanso himself.
Right.
So there is some form of friendship, so to speak, that used to be there that may have gone sour, right? But his importance would have been further encouraged if he had been able to deliver the state in itself in its entirety. Unfortunately, he was unable to do that. So the thing about it now is to be able to get both of them on the same table and both of them to be able to agree to say, okay, we're burying the hatchet and we're back again together in the same camp. And I think that politicians know how to play the game.
They do.
And we'll keep our fingers crossed. But I do know that somewhere, somehow along the line, because your value as a politician is dependent on the last election you won or the last election you were able to deliver on. So even if he might be upset about that meeting, he still has to swallow the bitter pill that this person has the higher, has the higher power with regards to how this state is governed at this time. So they will find a middle ground somehow.
Talk about competitive advantage. All right, we'll bring you a few more headlines from the Telegraph, the New Telegraph, that is. Presidential poll court consolidates LP, AP, and PDP's petitions against Tinubu. All right, that's again on the New Telegraph this morning. Okay, reviewed how UK Special Forces others operated in Nigeria, 18 others. Secretly, FG inaugurates second Niger Bridge federal government, federal secretariat in Anambra. We have vindicated, says Ngige. Impeached Ogun Deputy Speaker blocks Assembly gates. All right, alleged assault, Sheon Kuti released on bail. So that's, again, in itself is some sort of developing story. Incoming administration will face industrial crisis. NLC presidents, you're wondering what kind of premonition is that? But again, who knows? That could be based on facts on the ground and the antecedents we've had with regards to labor relations and all of the issues around industrial dynamics, right? Because the NLC president now is saying that incoming administration will face industrial crisis. Does that sound like anything new?
Well, it doesn't sound like anything new. It sounds like a threat, I don't know how empty it is, but the good thing is the chairman of being able to fight on the part of labor, right, that we all will not forget in a hurry, was Adams Oshiomhole of the NLC back then, who's now the ex-governor of Edo State, right, and also a senator-elect, okay, from Edo State. So one thing you cannot take away from him is he will understand the industrial battles that go in with the labor crisis and all of that. And coincidentally or incidentally rather, he is a member of the APC and a very good friend of the incoming president-elect. So there is that angle to it, that he will be able to speak the language that his people understand to them, because they say that you send the child of fire to fire. So at the end of the day, it's a question of, Adams, your people are giving us these issues, and how can we solve it? And they will find a middle ground. But then again, the current president of the NLC will not want to seem like a toothless bulldog, because he will also want to seem like he has some fire and he has some grit and he can bite. So it is expected that he will put all of these things forward so that the way it works sometimes, we can be called to a table and say, let us jojo, let us talk, let us have a discussion that might make the difference. So we keep our fingers crossed for that one. But I'm interested in the Sheon Kuti story being released on bail.
Even though you're not in Lagos.
No, I'm not in Lagos, but it's a national story, especially because Sheon Kuti's infraction was against a national symbol, which is actually the uniform of the Nigerian police force. So you cannot take away the fact that it must interest everyone how this pans out. You would recall that he was made the general overseer in the cell where he was, after a bit of a fight. From what I gathered, it was said that he had to give them some money to be able to get some respite in the cell, and they gave him to call it truce. Yes, to call it truce, and they had to give him, some religious items and all of that to become the general overseer of the cell. I said it on social media today that if I had my way, if I could advise him, I would say, this might be the time you want to become an advocate, for the police. This might be the time you want to become an advocate for teaching people how to treat national symbols, including the police, the military, everyone who has a national uniform, right? of what the police, of what our country represents, should actually be given some type of honor. And that way, you know, when the case eventually gets to court, he might get a light sentence based on the fact that he has been of a very good behavior. You know, so if I were, that's the advice I would give to him, because I saw something that looks like a charge sheet yesterday, and it wasn't looking good, including the fact that it was stated in that charge sheet that he's being charged for attempted manslaughter, you know, because the policeman he slapped, according to them, has been in coma since he slapped him.
That's not a good thing, but then again, we hope this becomes a lesson. I mean, we can turn a bad situation into an advantage for ourselves and for those around us. And we hope that this also becomes an opportunity for Mr. Seun Kuti to do a bit of a reflection and soul searching, and let's see what he finds going forward. Okay, so before we leave the Telegraph now, there's a big story there. It says CBN revokes 179 microfinance banks' others licenses. Okay, that's a very pivotal story, so you want to read it up and see what you find right there. Okay, so when we look at just a bit beneath the nameplate of the New Telegraph, it says Biden sends delegation to attend Tinubu's inauguration. Okay, 13 Osho students collapse after police tear gas drill. So sad. Don't use NAS leadership tussle to divide Nigerians, Khan warns politicians. Then we have another headline here that says effective January 2024, UK bars Nigerian students, others from traveling with family. Buhari to Senate approves 16 billion naira refund to Borno, says Niger Republic. Others will defend him if Nigeria disturbs him. The president keeps making allusions and then, you know, creating insinuations around these finding solace, or if you like, succor in Niger Republic. How do we create perspective on that one?
Well, you know that the Hausa language, for example, is being spoken across a particular belt in Africa.
Right.
Right. You would recall that at the Dangote refinery, the Chadian president actually did say that he would speak Hausa instead.
As against English. Well, taking a quick break now, everyone, and we'll look at a few more papers for you shortly. Stay with us.
Now, see, let me tell you.